And then Jess Bahr, she's in the wings. She's our speaker today. She's going to talk about the power of Pinterest. Let's give her a hand.
So just while we're getting started, by a show of hands, who's on Pinterest right now? Oh, full house. Who's running, are you guys running any promoted pins or any ads on Pinterest? Anyone so far? We have a couple. Now, who's running Facebook ads? So substantially more. Someday that will flip. I think Pinterest is, oh, here we go, perfect. So Pinterest is a growing platform. Their ability to run ads is still actually something you have to apply for almost, or work with an API partner for. But I do think that eventually that will flip and people will be running more ads on Pinterest as it continues to grow. There we go. So some post-breakfast resources. I'm on Twitter at Jess Bahr. I'm pretty responsive on there. So if you guys have any questions after the breakfast or anything that I don't answer, feel free to tweet at me. Social Flow is who I work for. You can also email me, jess@socialflow.com. And then on my Pinterest page, I have a board created for this event, and I'm going to update it with some additional information from the Q&A session. So that'll be up later today. So everything you see will be on there. What's the wrong one? So Pinterest is currently home to 1 billion boards with 50 billion pins from 70 million users. And when we talk about Pinterest, there's really two parts. There's organic and then there's the paid promotion side. And I'm going to be talking from an API standpoint. So SocialFlow is an API partner, which means that we have some additional functionality that's not available natively, but I'll definitely differentiate between what you can do natively and what you can do through a partner. Their partners are split into two parts. So we have the organic publishing, Shoutlet, global company you'll see up there. So all of these platforms have access to organic publishing on Pinterest, and then they also open a section to their promoted side. And you'll see SocialFlow is the only company that's on both sides. We have organic publishing and paid publishing. A little information, SocialFlow is actually the largest publisher of social content. If you are on Facebook and you like at least 2 or 3 brand pages, there's a strong chance you're seeing content that comes through our platform. We work with everyone from Time, Condé Nast, BBC, Al Jazeera, all the large publishers, and also a lot of brands that you're probably familiar with. Stuart Weitzman and Champs, we do a lot of paid media for, and that's my role. Or one thing, we also work with a lot of small businesses and startups, like BarkBox is one. I don't know if you guys have heard of BarkBox. You can use a subscription for your dog, and it sends them a box of toys and treats every month. So there are a lot of smaller companies we work with. And BarkBox, for example, they have pages on Facebook that are starting with 0 fans. And so we're able to help them grow it. So it's really the whole gambit of clientele. So who am I and why am I here speaking? I'm Jess. I'm originally from Oregon, Wisconsin. I currently live in New York City where I work for SocialFlow. I'm our lead senior strategist, which means that I lead our paid team for all of our ads on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. Some additional things. I went to UW Platteville, graduate supply chain management. Don't use that degree at all. I used to work out of 100 State, which is a co-working space in Madison, and I had my own company before moving to New York. And I like to think of myself as a digital Robin Hood, because I work with such large publishers who have, a lot of them have substantial budgets where I'm spending more on campaigns in a month than I make in a year. I really like taking those lessons and everything we're learning from those and helping small businesses and startups leverage those learnings. SocialFlow itself is a Facebook marketing partner, Twitter marketing partner, so we work with kind of everyone. So today, we are going to talk about, number 1, why Pinterest, why you should be on it. Number 2, the one thing that you should keep in mind to have great organic pins. And then we're going to talk about organic pin strategies to help your paid content. And then how paid promotion works on Pinterest. And then at the end, some weird things about Pinterest that you should know before embarking on any promoted strategies. So the big thing about Pinterest is that it's about the future, and people on Pinterest are on there planning things. They're on there with the intent of taking an action. So you're pinning maybe food to make in the future, weddings, it's the middle of winter, it's snowing out, so you're pinning your Caribbean vacation that's going to come up sometime in the future. Versus Facebook or Twitter, where people are on there just check in on the news or see what their friends are doing. Pinners on Pinterest are there with the intent to make an action. So intent is the big thing to keep in mind for your Pinterest content. If you're having, your organic content, the idea that people are going to be on there searching for things, and you want to position yourself that when they find you, so you want to be the answer people are searching for. So if you're a health brand, and people are on there looking for the best healthy recipes that include avocado or new workout tips, you want to have pins that will help them meet that goal. And that is the golden rule of Pinterest. I would say if there's one thing to take away and keep in mind with all of your Pinterest content, is to be helpful. So see here we have 2 pins. They're both talking about vacation. Which pin do you guys think resonates better organically with the audience? So who thinks this side? By show of hands. And who thinks this one does better? Actually, the pin that gets more traction organically is the one that has more description to it and is considered more helpful. So when we looked at stats from Pinterest, this pin got about 20 times more repins and more click-throughs to their actual site than the one that had a limited description. Part of that too is by having more information, it's making it easier to be found when people are searching for it. But the key to Pinterest is that pins should be helpful to people. When people are on Pinterest, they're searching for something specific. Sometimes you have people who are browsing, but you start from searching for a spot. And so if you are the answer to their question, or you provide that value, then they're going to be clicking through and repinning and sharing your content. Some ways you can be helpful with your content is using detailed description. So here's some examples of pins from Mad Scientist floats, where it's all about, these are kind of creepy looking floats that you make for your kids, like ice cream floats. Having descriptions with them, with the Nike wraps, explaining how they can be used and the benefits of them. Having detailed descriptions is one of the first steps. Using instructions and how-to. So if someone's coming and looking for a way to make tie-dye shirts, having a pin that actually explains the whole process versus just having a pin that says, click here for the best spot, to learn about tie-dye shirts and takes them off-site. Just making your pins helpful with instructions, having multiple images to make it visual is a great way to do that also. Having a list. So instead of the 3 yummy freezer-friendly meals, people inherently are drawn to lists on any social platform. And so when you have lists, you're helping people stay organized and just giving them like the most important information. So lists are a great tool to use. And then text overlays. Now you may notice for a lot of these are text overlays like 10 designer tips for small spaces, the yummy freezer-friendly foods. When you have text overlays, it helps someone understand what your pin is about and what clicking through that link will be about by just looking at the image. You want to keep the text overlays kind of clean so it doesn't clutter the image or make it seem too advertorial. The better your content performs organically, the better it'll do paid. And that's really true for any platform. So the 2 takeaways I would say is 1, pin should be helpful, and 2, the better they do organically, the better they'll do paid. But undoubtedly, when you're doing any paid promotion of pins, you're probably going to add branding to it, or more messages about your company. So I do recommend that if you're doing branding, to try and do more tasteful branding, where you're including maybe your brand colors. So instead for Target and GQ, they have small logos. For the dryers, it's featured in the background behind the spooky looking pudding cups, I believe those are. And the Nike has a quote. So not having it too overwhelming where the entire image is your brand, but having just incorporated one. On the promoted side of Pinterest, if you think about your funnel of user journey, you go from awareness to intent to action, and Pinterest as a paid platform is set up to follow that. So with awareness, you're really just promoting your brand, and Pinterest sells that on a CPM basis, where you're going to be buying impressions. Unfortunately, the CPM bidding is actually reserved to select brands that work directly with Pinterest. So you're not able to do any CPM bidding on Pinterest natively or through a partner. They do limit that also to more of like the fashion brands, but I wouldn't be too upset about it. We ran a lot of campaigns where we're running CPC, which is available natively versus CPM. You can find that the CPC campaigns perform a lot better. So you're not missing out on anything like that, but just something to be aware of. Intent is when people might be starting to like pin stuff for a vacation, or they're pinning for an upcoming event or a wedding, for example. And that's where you're going to be catching people with your CPC, so your cost per click, or your CP, cost per engagement type bids. And that's where you're really driving engagement on Pinterest, just to get your message out there more, get more pin through pin, and kind of spread your reach. The bottom of the funnel is action, and that's where you're going to be driving people to take an action. So maybe they're clicking through to your website to make a purchase. If you want them to click through and sign up for a newsletter or submit a lead, and that you want to bid on, you can do a CPC for that, or do a CPA, which is like cost per action, or cost per install. Similar to other funnels, because I would say here with Pinterest, the big opportunity is in that intent phase, where you're getting your pin out there and getting more reach to it, more action on the pin itself. On the left here, I forwarded, these are the two options you'll see if you go in natively through Pinterest. You'll see one option to boost engagement pins, which is your CPE, and then get traffic to your site, which is going to be a cost per click. Targeting capabilities are a little different with Pinterest. If you've ever run stuff on like Facebook or Twitter, they're more limited. The big thing on Pinterest that you're bidding on is keywords. Now the keywords can also help build your descriptions for your organic pins. With keywords, you want to think about what is someone going to be searching when they should find my pin. So if you're a financial institution, you want to target college students. What would college students be searching where maybe they're going to be open to that financial planning idea? Maybe they're looking for how to fill out the FAFSA or top money saving tips for college students. Something similar to that, and those are the keywords that you want to incorporate. We recommend doing at least 30 keywords on a per pin promotion, and having keywords that are different. So if you're a fashion retailer and you're selling women's wear, you can have women's fashion as a keyword, then you can have top women's night out outfits, or like girls' night out outfits, top felt shoes. And Pinterest will go and it's going to expand out when you do put in a keyword. So if you put in that women's fashion keyword, Pinterest will know, hey, people who engage with women's fashion, they're also engaging with like women's shoes and women's purses and best accessories for women fall 2014 and maybe 2015. Do you guys have any questions or anything up to now? Yes.
You said 30 keywords.
Yeah.
Have you tested that in terms, you start with 30 and then see how they perform and then narrow it down, or are you starting 50 keywords or 5?
Great question. We've tested a whole range. So Pinterest as an API is still really new. And so we said, you're telling us 30, does that really work? We tested running, 1 or 2 broad keywords versus like 15 to 20 and 30. We found that really like 30 to 35 is the sweet spot for it.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to go over that in a slide a bit more in depth, how to expand out, but starting broad. I'd like to go and look at, if you're doing a PPC or any Google AdWords, look at your keywords for that and what's working, and start with those, and then expand out. Pinterest is really more of a search platform than a social platform. So starting there, and you can get, when you do promote pins, you'll get a breakdown of how each individual keyword performs. So you can use that to, whatever performs the best, expand out. Yeah, Andrew, do you have a question?
I was wondering if the keywords are exact or broad match like Google AdWords, or if you can eliminate those too.
I have asked Pinterest that so many times, and we get different answers. So we found, because it all goes back to like the API being pretty new with it, there are words that are going to be broad, like women's fashion, that'll expand out, where you're still going to get some traction with that exact search. And so it's kind of like if you're doing like a long tail approach to your keywords, if you have something very specific like top leather boots for fall 2015, you might not get a lot of traction on that keyword. There might not be a lot of people searching that very specific string, but when they do hit, you could get like a really low cost per engagement on that because you're meeting that intent. So I suggest having a balance between some of those longer keywords, where they're like 3 or 4 words together to describe it, and then the more broad ones. So it's really a lot of like testing. Are there any other questions about stuff before I continue on? So for targeting is also a lot more limited on Pinterest than it would be on like Facebook or Twitter. Keyword is your best bet for reaching that audience. And then you can go and you can start limiting it by location, and they're using your market areas for that. Language, and right now, location is actually only in the US for these pins. So it's gonna be the US locations. We limit by language, iOS device, and they break it down with like Android phone versus Android tablet versus iOS phone, iOS tablet, and then gender. So with these keywords, you want to think about how do you make yourself easy to find? How do you match what people are going to be looking for? And that kind of goes into using some of the long tail ones and making sure that your content and the keywords you're using are paired up. So this goes back to the targeting that I was referencing here. So if we start with some broad terms, so if we are a home retailer, we're West Elm, we make furniture, we sell furniture. We can start with chairs, sofas, desks, coffee tables, ottomans, bed, as those broad terms. But if we go and look at our data, and we find that, hey, okay, so if you start with your broad terms, so you have all these different furniture ones, and then you find that chairs are really doing the best, what you can do is you can start breaking it up, so different types of chairs. Ottomans, wooden chairs, rustic chairs, green chairs, blue chairs, purple chairs, the whole gamut of chair options that are in there. Footstools, maybe expand out, and then you keep narrowing down and narrowing down. What I suggest to do is, if you have a campaign running, if you're on native, you can't actually edit any of your keywords. So native, you can't edit any of your keywords, which means you have to relaunch a new campaign. So if you have, in our first example of chairs are doing the best, I would take chairs and put that into its own campaign with some of those more specific terms. And then you can still relaunch that other campaign with your broad targeting to see if you do get some additional traction. Here we go. All right, so let's say the industrial chic did well. Other options with this too are to do rooms and general. With your keywords, because they are going to be expanding out, it can be good to keep some of those broad terms that are related but haven't been used yet in the campaign. So if we went from chairs, we go to industrial chic. Oh my. And then other examples, and Pinterest will return suggested keywords with it, would be like industrial chic table lamps, industrial chic dining table, industrial chic coffee table. It's really expanding out. A good place to start though is looking at branded keywords, so things you know that you already rank well for. Company name, misspellings. We ran a campaign with Birchbox, and one of our top performing sets was having Birchbox with the B-R-I-C-H instead of B-I-R-C-H. So just a misspelling, because people are searching, a lot of times you're on mobile, autocorrect might come in where it changes the word you meant to spell. So those are a great way to start, and then see what works. One additional benefit to Pinterest is that your pins never really die. They're always going to be up there. And so your average life of a pin when it's posted is about 3.5 months before you start seeing your engagements decrease. And even then you could have a pin that's really popular and gets a lot of repins, and that could last you a year plus. The average lifespan of a pin is 16 times longer than a Facebook post at that 3.5 months. And when you run promoted campaigns on Pinterest, you're only paying for the initial actions. So Pinterest calls these earned performance. So if I have a pin that I promote and someone repins it, and then it gets repinned again and again and again, I could have 10,000 impressions from all those repins that I wouldn't have to pay for. We find, this is an example of a campaign that we ran from August 1st to the end of August. And these are the impressions that we earned after the campaign ended. So you can see that we still had about 200 impressions the first couple days that it decreased, but through the entire month of September, we kept seeing impressions and traction from that campaign that ended at the end of August. An example here is our click-through rate, and this color, the darker one here is our click-through rate during the campaign, and this lighter one is our effective click-through rate, which includes all of that after the campaign ended stuff, all the earned engagements. And our click-through rate from the earned actions is actually higher because now it's being seen more by either people who intentionally repinned it, who thought that their followers and their friends would like it, or people who are searching for it and came upon it. So it can have it has a long tail impact even after the campaign ends. I have 2 case studies to share. One is for Birchbox, which is a beauty subscription service. So we ran a campaign for them, and we were driving people to subscribe to the actual subscription service. We found that, so with this we ran a CPC campaign, and then we had a conversion tag on the end site, which you're able to generate through Pinterest. We found that their actual cost per subscription, the cost per acquisition for each subscriber, was a third on Pinterest of what it was on Facebook. And so we're able to use this to help make the case to shift more budget to Facebook. They were getting, I can't say the exact amount, but it was substantially lower. And then their average subscription, on Facebook, the average subscriber stayed for like 3 to 4 months. On Pinterest, that subscriber was staying like 10 to 11 months. So not only were they acquiring the user for less money, but they were also able to keep that user longer. Makeup and beauty is perfect on Pinterest. There's a ton of content related to it. So it's really like the ideal ground for them to be sharing. This was more of an action-based one also. We were calling people to take an action off Pinterest. One that isn't quite as, what I would think of as like native to Pinterest, where it's not like fashion, beauty, health related, we ran a campaign for Bank of America. So we wanted people to get more involved. They had a campaign specifically for Better Money Habits, which was an online resource that helps educate people on how to manage their money better. The ideal goal is that they sign up for more accounts, they have their savings account with them, they put more money in. But really for this, we're going for engagement. So we had pins out on Pinterest with resources on how to better manage your money, and to get those out there and have more people see them. So we saw that we had about 29,000 repins during the 3-week campaign, and after 5 months total, so it ran for a couple months and stopped, there were 6 million people reached, when comparable to Facebook, if we ran a campaign like that, it would have died right away at the end of it. So there is a lot of opportunity on Pinterest for what I would think was like non-traditional Pinterest brands. I'm running campaigns for a large software company right now, also with a call to action for people to download a free trial of their software, which we found that our cost per click with that was under $1, when on Facebook it was a little above. So there is room. We have one that's a B2B financial services company also. So even if your company is not like traditionally, beauty or health or something that there's a lot of Facebook or Pinterest content for, there is still opportunity on Pinterest for those campaigns. A few things about Pinterest, because it is a newer API. When you go in there to run and promote pins, everything is in UTC, which midnight UTC is 7 p.m. here. So it's a little different when you see something at 12. It's not translated to your time zone. It's always going to be UTC. And all of your campaigns start at midnight UTC. If you're running through an API partner, such as Social Flow, we're able to start and stop at will. But if you're running natively through Pinterest, everything will start at midnight UTC, which is 7 p.m. Central Time. So if you build a campaign, it's not running, it's not UTC, it's not midnight yet. And one thing to keep in mind with that too is Pinterest doesn't do the best job with pacing. And so if you have a promotion, it's starting at midnight UTC, there is a chance that your promotion will spend out within 2 hours. If your bids are high and your budget's a little lower, bidding is really what kind of throttles that, which is something to be aware of. A lot of other platforms, they pace it out, so your budget's going to be spread throughout the day. For Pinterest, it is just right away when the auction starts. You cannot edit targeting after you create a campaign. The only thing you can edit is your bid or your end date. So you do have to relaunch for anything that you want to make as a new campaign, or if you're making changes, it's got to be new, which I think actually helps with the data because then you're keeping it separated. Redirects. You cannot use link shorteners on Pinterest. It's not going to tell you when you try and use a link shortener, but if you have a pin with a link shortener on it and a user clicks on it, they're going to get a modal that says that it's a suspicious link and you're going away from Pinterest. Do you want to continue? And that can be a bit scary, right, if you look at it. And so I would just stay away from Bitly, Ollie, all of those. And if you want to be tracking your content, make sure that you're using UTM parameters through Google Analytics. Google has a great URL builder that can help you build those tags if you need to. But don't use link shorteners because it will drastically decrease your engagement with that pin. You cannot promote rich pins. I don't know if anyone has rich pins enabled on their site. Those are the ones, if you see like for the app install where you can download directly to the app, or a lot of times they're formatted a little better. Those and biannual pins are not promotable on Pinterest natively. Leverage 30 plus keywords, we talked about a bit. And then something pins, because they do live forever, you want to make sure you're doing stuff that's more evergreen. There are a lot of holiday pins on which works, but if you're having like a one-day sale for your fabric shop, don't pin that unless you're going to go back and delete it, because it could get repinned, and then all of a sudden your one-day sale will look like it's continuing for a long amount of time.